evening and welcome to the Chasers Election Desk, the only place with more taxpayer-funded idiots than the new Senate.
And what an amazing election result it was, or will be at some point. Certainly not the easy win that the Coalition was expecting, which really annoyed this spokesperson for Sofitel luxury hotels.
Yes, when Malcolm Turnbull finally turned up to his own party after midnight, he did have a very believable explanation for what he'd been doing all night.
Hiding under the doona and pretending the world is not as it is.
Now, of course, we still won't know the final outcome of the election for days, possibly weeks, but as we go to air tonight, the list of what is still in doubt is quite extensive. We've got Hindmarsh, Malcolm Turnbull's judgment, Malcolm Turnbull's leadership and Malcolm Turnbull's future, all very much in doubt.
Look, it's actually not all bad for Turnbull. The Liberals have lost so many seats, they now qualify for a small business tax cut.
But, you know, look, give credit to the Prime Minister. He has taken full responsibility for the Coalition's losses.
No doubt the police will investigate.
Oh, come on, Bill Shorten will never be involved in illegal activities. He's famously tough on crime.
Well, I think that if you break the law here, you shouldn't.
Well, after Saturday, there was speculation that Turnbull could face a leadership challenge, but Conservative power broker Erica Betts leapt to the PM's defence.
Malcolm Turnbull is the leader, as I understand it, from amongst my colleagues.
But just in case, Turnbull's already called a meeting of his supporters.
Aw, that is so unfair, Scott. There's still a world where Turnbull wins convincingly, keeps his credibility and goes on to be a successful Prime Minister. He just has to wear his virtual reality goggles to see it.
Let's have a look at the state of the chamber then. Obviously, many seats changing hands and a terrible result for Malcolm Turnbull. If we look at it, the trend is definitely, yeah, look, yeah, it's going to be a hung parliament, definitely.
Yeah. It's been tough on a lot of Liberals who lost their job. Even John Howard failed to land a job at Beyond Blue after being deemed too partisan.
People shouldn't start slitting their throats, certainly not Liberals.
Well, that's the House of Reps, but the new Senate looks like an even bigger debacle, with a crossbench featuring the likes of Pauline Hanson, Darren Hinch and Nick Xenophon.
Yes, it's going to be very difficult to pass any legislation unless it's to deport Muslim pedophiles in South Australian submarines.
But it was a big night for Pauline Hanson. And it's interesting, actually, that after 19 years of One Nation, it was only on this election night that she finally understood her party's name.
Let's bring down the cost of living. Let's, you know, get the kids jobs and pull it together as one. That's all One Nation. That's what I'm saying. One Nation.
Now, of course, Scott, the rest of the media now has to work out how the best way to deal with Pauline Hanson is.
That's right, Ben, but I think Sky News did it perfectly. They let Pauline speak, but also made sure she couldn't be heard.
So,
Well,
that's about burqa.
a lot of
about
people
the
around the
mosques.
country,
I haven't gone out there, and I've told people. But a lot of them that's well accepted. They don't wear
Donald Trump has made a lot of comments also about Muslims.
Yeah, look, I think Sky's coverage was great, especially when Paul Murray, pictured here, rocking the look man about to be ejected from a country wedding, gave us the results of the count in the manner of a carnival horse.
I'm very pleased to say that what I predicted was going to happen has happened, which is that there was a revolution.
I think it's sad that we've been distracted by all this rubbish. I mean, we've forgotten that this election was supposed to be about something important, whether the love that two men have for each other will finally be respected.
Tony Abbott, in my opinion, is the only one now that can lead the Liberals out of this mess. He is the siren the nation calls, and he responds.
This is a disgrace. For what is done to Tony Abbott, this is all that's got left. The man should resign. There is no one that can seriously argue that Tony Abbott wouldn't have done better.
Good luck to them, you know. But, you know, Bolt was spot on about Abbott's enduring popularity.
I would ask you to ask the scrutineers, the Liberal Party scrutineers, how many ballot papers have come back with, you know, some message of support for Tony Abbott in there.
Yeah, it's a good question. And, in fact, the very same question is being asked by news.com.au.
Well, let's turn turn to immigration now, and it looks like Immigration Minister Peter Dutton will only just hang on to his once safe seat of Dixon.
Yeah, it's been a tough campaign and he's blamed bikies, union thugs and activists for his plummeting popularity. But I actually reckon it's because he chose to use this picture as his campaign poster.
But there is one thing Dutton's good at.
We have stopped the boats. We've stopped the boats. I said that I wanted to be the minister who stopped the boats. We've been able to stop boats.
He is so good at stopping the boats. I mean, the Liberal Party can't stop going on about it.
So on election night, we set ourselves a little challenge.
Now, you'd think that of all the election night parties, the best border protection would be at Peter Dutton's. But can the Immigration Minister stop boats getting into his own event?
So we went deep undercover to see how many boats of all shapes and sizes we could sneak in before we were stopped.
So we get inside Fortress Dutton, and the first thing that we see is the big man himself.
And I tell you what, that party was going off.
So we get to work. At this point, there are boats everywhere.
But come on, not all these people are the Minister for Border Protection. Surely if Dutton saw a boat himself, he'd turn it back at once.
Not only does Peter Dutton accept my boat, he slips it into his pocket to take home.
Well, that's it. The Liberal Party has lost control of their borders.
The floodgates are open. I mean, anything can get in. They didn't have a clue. Except maybe this lady.
Finally, a towback.
Yes, Border Force finally got us.
So let's update that scoreboard.
28 boats, not stopped.
Welcome to the Guinness Book of Word Records. And the record holder for the longest one-word answer.
One-word answer. Did you say that to Corey Bernardi?
I have said yes. I've had firm discussions with a number of colleagues. Yes.
Is Malcolm Turnbull with a 21-word one-word answer.
Reintegrating into society after a life in politics is an incredibly difficult process. In many cases, being a parasitic leech on the public purse is the only life that these people will have ever known.
Oh, isn't he a darling? What's his name?
They just don't have the skills to enter the real world, let alone, God help them, the workforce.
Look, we're generally pretty happy with your performance as an intern. We think there could be some areas for improvement.
Shame on you, Mr. Speaker. This is unbelievably rich coming from the members opposite.
Skills like not being a complete dickhead.
Okay, that's an example of the sort of behaviour we're looking at.
Our program seeks to make reintegration easier by taking things slowly in a safe and supportive space.
Come on. Come on.
I suppose I realised I needed help when I entered the race to become school captain of my daughter's primary school. Of course, I completely crushed the campaign.
Your next
Those kids just don't understand preference deals.
Andrew Neil.
But the victory just felt hollow. I doubt I'll even run next year.
Welcome to my shop, sir. What can I get for you?
Thank you for the question. Small businesses like this one here are the backbone of our...
Just talk normally.
And that's why
No.
I mean, this treatment is high-stakes stuff. If these ex-politicians can't reintegrate, it can have devastating effects for the whole of society.
Tonight we're looking under the desk at election night coverage.
Elections, they only happen once every 3 years, so you have to get them right. And that is why on Saturday the networks pulled out their biggest stars.
Did they? Like the charismatic star of ABC's panel, Scott Morrison, who showcased a series of increasingly nonplussed expressions, as well as his trademark inability to pronounce the seat of Werriwa.
This is why Werra is... I haven't seen anything in Werra yet. Laurie Ferguson out in Werra.
Oh, God, no wonder the Libs didn't win Werra, and then Labor promised them an extra syllable.
Now, over at Channel 9, though, they didn't have just one star. They had about 20.
Oh, it's a ridiculous number of experts at a desk. I mean, really.
Yeah, and so little chemistry between them, too. I mean, Kim Beazley wasn't even willing to trust his coffee near Peter Costello. What's that?
Where's the trust? Where's the trust? By contrast, on Channel 7's panel, the camaraderie was heartwarming.
There were a lot of bedwetters in the Liberal Party, and you seem to be the captain of the bedwetters.
You're the king of the bedwetters, actually. You are actually a grub.
King of the bedwetters. Now, that is one king you do not want to be knighted by.
I dub thee.
But over on Sky News, there were no bedwetters, no abuse. They were just too busy trying to work out who the candidates were, like the mysterious Jeff.
The other vote, who's this? 9%.
We're all going to start Googling.
Is that an independent candidate? Is it? No one... No, seems too sure, but Jeff's done well.
He has done well, but Jeff was far from the most forgettable person on the Sky broadcast. Enter Attorney General George Brandis.
The analysis you did at the start of the broadcast, which with respect was accurate.
And exit the camera.
Yes, you know, as a news director, you need to focus on what's interesting, and that is anyone but George Brandis. such as this last guy coming up, who's reminiscing about better days when he wasn't listening to George Brandis.
So to sum up Sky's coverage, Jeff, done well. George, done badly.
Well, the networks all had their talent sorted, and the next ingredient is the very latest information.
Oh, yeah, who could forget the constant stream of stunning images during the Brexit vote?
Results are still coming in. Here is the latest picture.
Although, to be fair, their cameraman was trying to avoid something less interesting.
Oh, yes, nicely avoided. Now, this is why on election day you need live cameras at every polling booth. You don't want to miss the arrival of an important candidate.
Now, we might just swing the camera around if we can to show you, well, there's some sort of fish arriving, it seems.
No, not a fish. I said a candidate, like, you know, like when Julie Bishop cast her vote.
We've got some live shots of Julie Bishop casting her vote over in WA. They're, of course, 2 hours behind the East Coast, but that's not her.
No, that's not Julie Bishop. I think it might be Jeff.
Jeff's done well.
But when the networks finally do manage to cross to an actual politician, you can learn a lot about them, I find. Like, for instance, I had no idea how sexist that Nick Xenophon is. He rates his own candidates' looks and ages.
Rebecca's looking okay. She's looking fantastic. She's right next to me, and so far looks about 55-45.
Yeah, look, unfortunately, you know, some politicians that you cross to, they do turn out to be duds, you know, and that's when sometimes you've just got to call for a cut, you know, although try not to get caught on screen doing that.
He had no plan for the economy, he had no plan...
Right, so Peter Van Onselen here is getting quite impatient. Oops, I'm on camera. I'll just pretend I've got an itchy neck. No one will ever know, Peter. I should say, though, Peter Van Onselen later said he was just referring to an audio...
Yeah, sorry. Anyway, look, most of the crosses on Saturday, of course, went to election night celebration.
And you know what parties means? Teenagers.
That I remained a federal Liberal member.
I mean, look at this guy, right? Like, he idolises Craig Laundy. Like all people his age, he can't even look at Laundy directly. I mean, Laundy's star shines so bright.
The final ingredient for top election night coverage, though, new technology. Now, I gotta say, I thought Channel 7 hit it out of the park.
Oh, gosh, yes, they did. I mean, and I'm not surprised, you know. I mean, given, how seriously they take politics in their promos.
Who's the boss? Their plan for Australia. And the Ninja Cat upstaging them all.
Yeah, it was a huge, huge story. They went global.
Results are still coming in. Here is the latest picture.
Yeah, at Channel 7, they were excellent. You know what was completely missing from the other networks?
Ninja Cats.
Yes, but also helicopters.
Oh, yes. I mean, how can you have election night without a flotilla of unnecessary helicopters? I mean, this is like an evening with Bronwyn Bishop.
But it's not just graphical vehicles, though. You know, 7 also had real vehicles chasing the PM himself on his way to make his speech.
We've got bike cam. We've got a live shot coming off the back of the motorbike as they're following the Prime Minister into the city from Point Piper.
This is a nice technique, you know. It's not as if anything's ever gone wrong before when the paparazzi pursued an aristocrat through a tunnel in the middle of the night.
It's getting a bit tedious, actually. Can we see what was on Sky News at this point? Oh, no, it's George Brandis. No, change back. Change back, please.
You know, you have to hand it to 7, though. Nothing can stop a bike cam. Well, except a bike cam's mortal enemy, a red light.
They should have used one of their helicopters to get there. They've got hundreds of them. All right. But, look, 7's crowning glory, I'd say, would have to be their elegantly restrained seat tally graphic.
We're going to check in on one of our fancy new graphics, the Tower of Power. A bit of virtual reality spectacular for you here as we begin to get a bit of a play on the numbers, the seats and the tally. Early days, we keep saying it is, no doubt about that, but here we go as the Tower of Power delivers the latest numbers. 5.
Why were there explosions going on?
Yeah, well, don't you know, the whole federal election was held in the Die Hard Tower.
Jobs and growth, motherfucker. I'll tell you the thing I like most about the Tower of Power, though. It's that they've gone to all this trouble to design an illustration for a figure which is in the bottom corner of the screen at all times, even during the graphic itself.
It's almost as necessary as the helicopters, isn't it? But, well, look, frankly, I don't want the ABC to be beaten by a pointless graphic that tells you what's already in the corner of the screen. So I have developed the crustacean of stations. How else, other than looking at the bottom right of screen, will you know what station you are watching?
That is crap, Anthony. That is crap. Look, for true graphical clarity, you need the Dalmatian of stations.
All right. Well, Channel 9, they tried to compete with all this graphics frenzy.
Yeah, well, look, you know, 9 used to be the innovators in this field, didn't they? To indicate losing candidates, they once gave us the Shredder, and then the Boot, and now in 2016, the Crusher.
I think the Crusher is as good as the Boot. From Dobell, Karen McNamara, she's crushed. Peter Healy's about to be turned into a cube. Here he goes. Oh, dear.
Yeah, the Crusher, which smashed up politicians' faces, you know, with some truly hideous results, I must say.
Jones.
That Crusher graphic, I find very unrealistic.
It is a bit, isn't it?
Once again, I prefer Channel 7. Now, over there, they illustrate what happens to politicians under actual constitutional procedure, where the sitting member starts in an airport departure lounge, rushes back into the Parliament, sits in the Speaker's chair, which is sponsored by Channel 7, then gets blasted by a rocket-powered James Bond-style ejector seat to an ominously oversized moon. Now, that's what happens.
Just as the Founding Fathers envisaged. Now, and a far cry, I should say, from the overblown nonsense that we saw on the ABC. I mean, they were the worst of all the networks. They took things way too far, as usual, with their disgraceful new graphic, the butt.
Jamie Briggs, the Liberal member for Mayo, has conceded the seat. Interesting.
Negative gearing. Does it affect house prices? Some say it does, while other experts, of course, disagree with that position and say it doesn't. Which is it? Well, who better to explain than the CEO of the Master Builders Association?
The negative gearing rules push up house prices? Not at all. So if you got rid of them, there would be no impact on house prices. Well, there would be impact. Do you think negative gearing rules push up house prices or not? Not necessarily. But if you got rid of the negative gearing rules, there would be an impact. Well, there will be. So the existing rules don't push up house prices, but if you got rid of them, it would have an impact on house prices. Well, that's what it's, you know, certainly what... Is that logical? Well, it follows in part.
Welcome back to the Chaser's election desk. And look, on the figures I've just got in, I would like to call this election for the Liberal Party. Suck on that, Anthony Green. I beat you.
But I've got to say, congratulations to the entire ABC team for the great coverage of the election. Obviously, we were all told not to look too happy if Labor did well, and I think most of us did that pretty well.
After a swing to Labor. And, Steph, we have just been hearing about the category history.
Except maybe Stephanie Smale,
Yeah. Well, I think Sky's coverage was pretty good too, although I hope we get a final result soon because Ross Cameron is finding it really hard to pad without offending minorities.
If you're going to make that case, you actually have to spell out the benefits that may flow, rather than sort of like an Armenian with an abacus. You know, you are saying to this, and I just want to say, I love the Armenians, ancient Christian people of the Middle East, and need much more support than they ever see. One of the reasons they're good with an abacus is because they've been isolated and marginalised. The point is that...
Nice save, but I'll tell you the thing that I hate most about elections. Those bloody how to vote hander-outers. Yeah? I just don't understand why people accept those flyers, no matter who's handing them out.
They do. They just take them, don't they? They always take them, you know. And actually, this got me kind of wondering, you know. I mean, how unpleasant does a political party have to be for people to refuse their flyers?
First, I wonder who'd consider voting for the More Daryl Summers.
More Daryl Summers party.
No, thank you.
Don't blame you. More Daryl Summers party, madam. More Daryl Summers party, madam.
Next, the compulsory euthanasia. No, I don't support voluntary euthanasia.
Well, what you got on the...
compulsory euthanasia.
I don't know about...
Voting today, madam. Compulsory euthanasia.
I'm sure no one will take this one.
Free Rolf Harris party, madam. Free Rolf Harris party.
Surely there'll be no takers for this.
Nazi today. Great. Voting Nazi today, guys.
Well, this is too easy. Let's try an even worse candidate.
Kevin Rudd.
I get the feeling people will accept anything they're handed.
I'll accept anything I'm handed party, madam. I'll accept anything I'm handed party.
There you go. You disgust me. You disgust me. Why? People like you disgust me, Hanson. You're bloody flyers.
What's wrong with flyers?
That's exactly why, as a bit of a chaser tradition, I like to plot ways of avoiding having to take those flyers. I've learned to walk on stilts. I've set myself on fire. And I've chopped off my own arms.
Yes. All proportionate responses.
They are, but none of them keep these people at bay, which is why this year I felt compelled to drape myself in a snake. We started at an ordinary polling location. Until now. Clearly the snake would frighten these people away and I would be allowed to proceed untroubled by flyers to... She handed me one right under the gaping jaws of my python. I didn't mean it like that. Obviously, while you have hands, the hander-outers have hope. So, next attempt, Edward Shredder hands. They start suspicious. Would anyone take on a man whose hands were literally electric paper shredders? Look at my hand. Yes, they would.
It only works when you put a little flyer on.
Is anyone else taking your flyer? I'm very keen to take your flyer. No, nothing more than your... Oh! This keeps on happening. And I love the way the Green recycled the shreds to put them back together and hand them to someone else.
And there'll be no
Flyers? Flyers, sure? No one's giving a flyer? So early signs are promising until... Oh, no! God, they are sneaky! All right, so clearly you need to deprive them access to your personage somehow, which is why I voted in a Zord ball. Oh, shit, we're stuck on the tree! OK, maybe in another location without trees. We got the flyer people. Thank you. There we go. We've got the Zord ball. Watch out, I'm coming to vote. Maybe if I'm lucky, they won't even know I'm there. OK, maybe they will. Anyone want to give me a flyer? I'm taking flyers. Anyone want to give me flyers? But how will they hand a flyer to a man encased in 3 metres of vulcanised rubber? Yes!
He may have had a car crash political career and a car crash broadcasting career, but you're in safe hands at Ross Cameron Driving School.
We're coming up to a hairpin bend. What do I do, Ross?
If you are approaching a hairpin, it is actually safer to approach the hairpin with your foot on the accelerator than with your foot on the brake.
Really? You say so? Well, at least I won't have to listen to Ross Cameron anymore!
I just want to say, I love the Armenian.
Yeah, look, if you ask me, journalists have got pretty lazy during this election.
Oh, I know. Just look at these vox pops on Lateline.
Would you like to play a word association game? Malcolm Turnbull.
Disappointed.
That is pathetic. I mean, where's the depth? Where's the length? See, when I interview a member of the public, I want to hear everything they have to say. So I interview people for as long as they'll let me, which is why just before polling day, I set out to get the most comprehensive vox pops ever recorded.
OK, now if I could just go through a few issues in the election and you could tell me which ones are important to you and which ones sort of aren't important?
Yeah, sure. No problem.
Tax reform.
Nah, not really.
Getting rid of the 5-cent piece.
No.
Yes.
Do you think prisoners should be allowed to vote?
Absolutely.
What about ex-prisoners?
No, they should be able to vote.
What about people who have been found innocent but did actually commit the crime?
Yes, I would let them vote.
What do you think is the right age for people to be able to vote?
I wouldn't go against if somebody wanted to lower it to 17 or 16.
But what about 4?
4 would be too low.
If we could just turn to the US election now. Do you think Bill Shorten would be an effective opponent against Donald Trump?
Hey, mate. Sorry I'm late.
Oh, that's okay. Actually, yeah, it's the end of my shift. Do you want to take over? We're just... Just a little bit
Just
longer,
a few more. No worries, sorry. So, what if Bill Shorten was running against JFK?
I have no comment.
Oh, thanks. That's great. Thank you.
I have no opinion on this.
If you could just say how likely you are to vote for these political parties.
The Labor Party?
I would say slightly more likely than unlikely.
Yeah.
After choice, yeah.
The Bullet Train for Australia party.
Bullet train. Oh, that sounds nice.
Social
Are these all real parties?
Yeah.
They are.
If we could just turn now to specific candidates. And... Oh, you've got a head?
Sorry, I'm going to go to birthday dinner.
Oh, okay.
27 today.
Oh, it's your birthday?
Yeah.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you.
If I could just ask you for your opinion on the look of some of these candidates.
What about that guy?
No comment.
about that lady.
He's pretty hot.
Steve Giobo?
Yeah. Dennis Jensen.
No comment. A lot of pages left.
There's a few pages left.
Okay, yeah.
You want to go through it?
The Honourable Keith Pitts, the member for Heathrow.
Yeah, he's okay. Actually, I kind of do need to go.
Oh, you do have to leave? Okay.
Anything else?
No, I think that's about it. It's getting cold.
Thank you very much. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night. Bye.
And look, one of the definite results of this election has been a ton of pressure on Malcolm Turnbull. I mean, the big question is, can he keep his job?
I don't think Abbott even wants the job. He's too busy competing in local beauty pageants.
That's what I've been over the last 8 weeks. I've been Mr. Warringah.
I'm not even talking about Tony Abbott. There's a much bigger threat. Kevin Andrews, seen here listening to a pair of binoculars.
Yeah, that is right. Back in April, of course, Kevin Andrews made it very clear that he was prepared to challenge Malcolm Turnbull for the leadership if the circumstances arise.
Well, I think circumstances have arisen, so we went to the PM in waiting, Kevin Andrews, to up his security detail and help him prepare for the top job. Kevin, we're here just in case the circumstances arise as your security detail. OK?
Yes.
I've got the decoy Kevin Andrews just in case, all right? Let me tell them apart.
Yes, yeah.
And also I got those posters made up. You wanted made up? There's never been a less exciting time.
I'm really excited at the moment.
You're excited about this?
Excited. I'm glad you've come to Templestowe.
And if you wanted to do a Prime Ministerial press conference, we have the flags here ready for you, OK?
Look, we've got a great Prime Minister at the moment.
Mm-hmm,
I'm looking forward to
But if the circumstances arise...
Serving with Malcolm in the forthcoming Parliament,
I know, I
I'm
agree.
sure he'll be an even greater Prime Minister in the next Parliament.
You can never be too careful, though. If those circumstances arise, what do you reckon?
Look, you know, this is my car. This is a car I
This is your car? Well, we better get it set up. This is good. All right, we're ready to go. Well, I thought we'd never see it, but I think that's the end of the Chasers election desk for 2016.
I hope you've enjoyed this election as much as Malcolm Turnbull hasn't. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night.